All right, coaches, welcome back here. Ask Coach from XO Clinics. I hope you guys had an awesome break here for 4th of July, and maybe you're still on vacation. But here we are. This is going to be week 3 here for Ask Coach. It's been really good. A lot of interaction. Guys have sent in their questions. I've answered a lot of them, over email, and then obviously certainly some of these make the video here, and hopefully we're getting them all answered for you guys. But again, I hope you guys had a great 4th of July break. Now once we get back in here to next week, we're looking at a few more weeks before training camp, so certainly enjoy as much time as you can with your families. But certainly I know there's still probably a lot of work to get done as we continue to enter and get to August for training camp. So got some really good questions here tonight. Obviously, I think as the year goes on and we've got the clinic and the off season and different things, but I always start seeing more and more, like around June and July, are really questions about their offense. And tonight we're going to talk about training camp install plans and some different things about being a play caller. So I certainly see a pattern in that. So hopefully you guys have had a chance to check out the OC School. We added 2 more some more content to it. 2 more things that we've added are the master guide to game planning questions. Those are a set of questions that you and your staff can ask yourself, and you guys can certainly add to that list. But it gives you some really good thoughts here as the as an offensive staff, and it goes, and it's broken down by position as well. And then we put together what's called the master guide of play flow, and it just gives you another thought in your game planning process, on how to build your game plan here. So again, let's jump right into this. Again, this is Ask Coach from XO Clinics. This is going to be on YouTube. Certainly you're here watching it, so please subscribe to the channel. Please check out the website. We've got a ton of resources. This thing's going to continue to build as we get into August and into the season, so continue to just join the community, and this thing's going to continue to grow, and don't ever stop trying to grow as a football coach, and continue. If there's things you want to interact on and ask questions, send them our way. Certainly want to do our best to get these answered. So first question right here we're going to take a look at is really what's your training camp install plan. So that's a really good question. Obviously we're all getting to closer and closer to fall camp, and certainly by now you probably have started working on that. And I know in college football, for us, we've actually looked at some of our opponents, like the first 3 opponents that we're going to have on our schedule, and we start putting together some preliminary game plans, and then we look at our training camp install plan, and it's probably not going to look a lot different than our spring. But certainly it'll have a little bit more, because there's more practices and a little bit more time, and there's more walkthroughs that we'll put in. But certainly it's going to look similar. So I'm just going to put a couple things up here, and then we'll check through some of these and just talk about it. So I think the biggest thing is you got to put it on paper, and I think you guys got to sit down as an offensive staff, and you got to look at putting together a Microsoft Excel or a Google Drive spreadsheet, and just the way we've done it is we've obviously made these columns, and we have this daily install plan, and we don't install every day. We're not a 3-day install team, like maybe some of the air raid teams. We'll probably install over 5, 6, maybe even 7 practices, and it may even touch an 8th and a 9th, just because, hey, I want to look at this today, and you'd have to consider that a new install. So I think what you got to really look at here offensively is just some of your the situations that you're going to touch on, and is it normal down, is it red zone, is it third down stuff, what tempos and what cadences are we going to use, what personnel groups am I installing. And again, we're talking basically a training camp daily install. What formations and adjustments am I using, shifts and motions that day, what run plays am I putting in, what run play tags, how are we going to ball handle in it. And then we get to pass protections, quick game, drop back pass, shots, automatics, screens, movements, RPOs, tags, and then tricks. And this is our list on how we break it down. But then you got to dive deeper, and you got to really look at, how should we put this in? So for example, if I put in outside zone in on day 1, ideally I would put in outside zone naked on day 1, is those things will build upon each other. And I think you got to really look at it that way. But I think you have to look at how much time am I going to have to meet with my guys? How much of this stuff do I have on a playbook? And then how many plays on a script am I going to have? And really, I think that's going to determine, how much you're going to put in your install. But I think when you sit in a room with a bunch of coaches and you're like, I want to put in this day, this, the same day, you're probably going to over game plan, in my opinion. And I've been in these meetings and I've been guilty of it. But now we really try to methodically look at, how much can we script? What can we get taught? And then are we getting enough reps of this? So that's why we don't try to jam pack it all into 3 days, although the first 2 to 3 days are probably, have the most volume that we're going to install. But once it's installed, then we start, tweaking it and adding different variations to it. So I think this kind of just gives you a pretty good idea of, I think, from an organizational standpoint, I think you got to look at it. And then you got to decide, what am I putting in? If you hang your hat on running inside zone and counter, you certainly have got to put those in early on, probably not on the same day, and then if you're a four verts and you're a mesh and you're a hank team and a cross team, you're not putting those in all on the same day, but you might put 2 in on the same day. And then obviously formationally and personnel groups are going to have a lot to do with it. So I think there's a lot that goes into it. I think, the more work you put in on the front end of the thought process that goes into it with your coaching staff, what can get taught, how much meeting time, and then how many plays on a script. I think that should really determine, how much are you really going to install, in, per day. So, and really that's what we're looking at, this daily install. And you don't have to install every day. You want to get good at some of your base staple things that you want to hang your hat on, and I've stopped our install this past spring. We got to, day 4 of spring and we had a big install coming up for day 5. And I said, we're going to hold, and we held it for 2 days. And I wanted to work those first couple installs and be able to script it. Maybe we showed some different variations, but you want to be able to get good at something and continue to build from there. So I think those are just some general thoughts on training camp install plan. Hopefully that answers your question there for you guys. Hopefully that gives you guys some ideas. So now we've got a scheme question coming up. So, what is my favorite red zone RPO? So, again, obviously, if I'm going to run an RPO in the red zone and it, depending on, coverage and some different things, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is really a pop RPO. So if I'm going to get some sort of, maybe 7 across, middle of the field open, if I can get this defender, downhill on some run game, I can get this fullback tight end, right up the middle of the field, I think that's going to have some opportunity here, because I think, once you're in the red zone and these defenses are, buckling down, trying to get their stops, and if they're playing 7 across, I think you're going to have a good opportunity to get middle of the field open. This would be my first one, would be just a pop to the middle of the field, and then just depending on coverage. So, but if I was going to get middle of the field open, favorite RPO, I'm going to try to give some run action, and I'm going to pop it right through the middle of that defense and give us a chance to have an opportunity for an explosive play. So hopefully that gives you guys some thoughts down there in the red zone. Now moving on to the next one here, question 3. What's my favorite run play versus a tough front? So I haven't heard tough front in a little while. I've always basically most recently referred to it as a bear front. That's what we called it when I was in the NFL. We called it a tough front. But certainly, my favorite run play versus the bear, just depending on personnel group, I'm going to say speed option, and I just think, I'm going to run away from a lot of that mess right there in the middle. So when I look at this tough front and just defining the tough front, obviously, you've got, your centers covered, your guards are covered, and your tackles covered. And, they're 5 up here and they're playing, really just 0 right here across the board. So now what I want to be able to do, I just want to be able to run speed option here. I want to be able to seal the front, seal the mic, single up the nose, bring these 2 guys back up to the will, grab that gap right there on the end, and just run and just get, A and B blocked here and just option off the nickel Sam right there, the edge of the C gap player. So I think for me, if I see a bear front or a tough front, my favorite run play initially is going to be speed option. Now there are some elements to that guys don't love, but I don't mind. We work the ball handling. We work that. This play has been good for us. We've scored touchdowns with this play. It's created explosive plays. So we work hard on speed option. I'm a big believer of it. I think when you show that you run speed option, defenses are gonna have to respect that and be able to fit that and be sound as ever if you've run some speed option. So that would be my choice right there. Favorite run play versus a tough front. So again, now we're going to get into some more play calling and play caller on game day. So how do you become a confident play caller on game day? So I think really what it comes down to is really just your confidence in your preparation. So just like I tell our players, your confidence has to come from your preparation. So now me as a coach, I can watch all the film I want. I can, grind it out and do all that. But it's obviously it's my preparation. But now the next thing I would say it's going to be about my process. And this is a lot of the stuff that we talk about in the OC school. And you talk about your offensive DNA. But if it comes from my preparation and I want to be confident on game day, it's going to be in my process, and just, my step-by-step, how are we going to, look at normal downs? How are we going to look at red zone? How are we going to look at, third down? And then really a big piece of everybody's offense is going to be, how prepared is your quarterback? Does he understand all the protection? Does he love everything that we have installed? And I think I've developed a really good relationship with our quarterbacks in our program and over a number of years. And I think I've become smart enough to know that I've got to ask these guys, what do they like? What don't they like? What do they love? And involve them in the game planning process. But again, for me to be confident on game day, I've got my process that starts for us on Sunday, step by step. You can learn about it in the OC school, but I really methodically follow this process in our game planning and certainly, try to watch a lot of film and get a study and figure out what advantages I can create. Where can I move playmakers around? But certainly I think, at the core of this question, if I want to be confident on game day, it all goes back to really my day-to-day operation, my process, and how I prepared our offense and how prepared our offensive players are ready for game day. And I think part of that is keeping it simple. So again, it goes back to your process. Certainly, how are you going to install your offense? How are you going to prepare? How you practice? How fresh is your team going to be on game day? I think there's a lot of factors that I think coaches need to look at, but certainly I love that question. Love that piece of, just some of the things that are coming out of the OC school. I think guys are asking these questions. So again, I appreciate it. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of thought on, how you can become confident for game day. Again, ask Coach from XO Clinic. Send in your questions. We'll try to do our best to get them answered here. If not, you'll get an email, with a response and an answer. Hopefully it's what you wanted to hear or what it's a good answer for you. But again, this is something that we're going to carry on into August, into the season, something we're going to release on a weekly basis. Keep sending in your questions. We love it. And again, be on the lookout for the next video. Be sure to check out the site, check out OC School, check out the Red Zone, check out the Perfect Marriage. There's a ton of different things. It's a brand new website, and all those resources are starting to be on there. If you are a current member and you haven't moved over from the old site, email us. Get on the phone with us if you have to. Let's get you migrated over to the new site so you can enjoy all the resources. And again, let's have a great week. Let's finish this July off strong as we get ourselves and our teams ready for training camp and into the season.